Good evening and welcome. This is the April 22nd, 2024 meeting of the school committee. Call the meeting to order 5:02. This meeting is being both audio and video recorded. I would ask that everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Sarah is the loud one. That's true. That is true. No, I miss her. I miss her. Yeah, yeah. We will do roll call, please. Amy, start, please.
Kate Lyons.
Gregory Thompson.
William Smith, Superintendent of Schools.
Pamela Blair, Assistant Superintendent for Business. Yours.
Okay. And we have some minutes for approval. I would take a motion, please.
The minute for in both sessions, correct?
We'll just do one at a time if you don't
In the
mind.
executive session.
Okay, motion made by Amy,
Second.
second by Kate. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Actually, yeah,
Oh.
you weren't here, but we need your vote, so. You can vote out of necessity.
Okay.
Yep. So that's 3-0.
Thank you.
Meeting minutes.
Motion made by Amy,
Second.
second by Kate. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That carries 3-0. When we have committee and subcommittee communication. Sandrine, would you like to start us out, please?
Yes, I would. There's been a lot recently in schools. There was a high school band and orchestra field trip on April 3rd. It went very well. Senior.
That was to
banquet-
New York City, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was a New York City trip. We went to see Back to the Future.
Oh, you won?
Yes, it was a pretty good musical. I didn't love it, but it was pretty good. Senior banquet was on April 5th. I felt that went very well as well. We have the Special Olympics got rescheduled for this Friday because of rain the previous date. So this Friday will be the Special Olympics. Stop the Swerve, the Hamden District Attorney's Office is gonna be coming to the school tomorrow and Wednesday to do a special event for the seniors who are gonna be attending prom. So the 23rd, there'll be events in the gym, and the 24th is gonna be like a full presentation for the senior class. There was a Model Congress event on April 13th. My bill passed, so there's a very.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
There is a concert on May 1st, and then there should be another concert, I believe, on May 8th. And today there's actually, I believe, 3 sports games. There's a track meet, there's a baseball game, and then there's also a lacrosse game.
What was your bill?
Pink tax, to eliminate the pink tax.
Oh. And you convinced the majority of your peers?
Yes, I did.
Fantastic.
Good for you. That's awesome.
Thank you, Sandrine. Kate?
We met with the ELEA committee and they set a date we set a date for the teacher recognition ceremony for June 6th, 3 to 5 at East Long Meadow High School. So just sharing with my group.
Excellent. Good. Excellent. Thank you, Kate. Yeah, Amy.
The only thing I have to share is that the Diversity Equity Steering Committee is reconvening again on Wednesday, which I think the whole group is really looking forward to. It's been a couple of months since we connected, so I'm looking forward to attending that on Wednesday.
Great. Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, moving right along, we have an opportunity for visitors to address the committee tonight. Seeing none tonight, we will continue on. We have the fiscal 24 third quarter financial report.
Okay, in your packets and on at least 2 screens. Unfortunately, that screen is not working for us tonight. We have the presentation for our FY 25 budget. And as all of you know, our focus in our SMART goals has been around the whole child, making sure that we're supporting all of our students academically, socially, and emotionally. I know it's a lot on there, so I'll try to summarize, but basically we work each year through our SMART goals to focus on all of our students and make sure that they feel supported, they feel connected to their schools, and most importantly, and this goes along, Ms. Delenta, with what you were saying about the Equity Diversity Steering Committee, making sure there are no barriers for anyone as they access curriculum and other opportunities in ELPS. So what does that mean? Well, just some bullet points over the last few years that we've been able to do with our budgets. We've been able to implement new curricular materials, basically at the elementary level, but we're starting to now move into middle and high. And these are high quality curricular materials that goes through the vetting process that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education uses. And that's moved a lot of things that we do in the public schools forward. We continue to use personalized learning software so that as a way to further support students as we're going through different material, mostly in ELA and math. Students who may be struggling on a given concept, we can give direct support to that concept and meet students where they are in their learning. We also continue to use, and you've heard us mention it here, and Sandrine knows them quite well, being a senior now, our climate and well-being surveys. We do that 3 times a year to check in where are our students, how are they feeling in terms of their connection with schools and staff, curriculum, and so forth. We also do that, though not as frequently, with staff to see where they are and how they're feeling as we go through these years. Counseling at all levels not only is present in all of our schools, but they are supporting students socially and emotionally. And at the youngest levels, they are providing the social curriculum. Our elementary schools continue to strengthen and connect with all of their students and families. And one of the things that they implemented the last couple of years, not only was the second step curriculum, which we purchased a couple of years ago, but they've started the community circles, which is the way they start off each of their days. So it's pretty incredible to watch if you get a chance. And our students at specifically at the secondary level are stepping into more leadership roles with committees such as the ABAR committee at Birchland Park, which is anti-bias, anti-racist, and the Student Diversity Alliance, which you've heard about some of the assemblies they've had at the high school. So over the last few years, as we've come out of COVID, I think we've done a nice job utilizing the budget to make sure we're connecting with our students and dealing with challenges that they're seeing in front of them. So what does that mean? Well, as we continue to build back, we know that in fiscal year 21 and 22, when we were right in the heart of the pandemic, we actually had to reduce by 11 positions. 23 and 24, we were looking at budget increases of about 3.9%. And that's really allowed us to do a lot of the work, not only that you saw on the previous slide, but it allowed us to expand our preschool at Meadowbrook, which has been hugely needed, as now we're seeing much more, many more students coming to us in need of early intervention. We restored math coaches, those are academic coaches who work directly with staff and students to make sure that we're putting in place the most current instructional strategies. We saw those restored to Mountain View and Maple Shade. We recovered lost full-time employees at Birchland and the high school. And something that we've been trying to do for probably close to 8 years, we were able to finally hire another specialist teacher, an art teacher, so that Maple Shade and Mountain View are no longer sharing specialist teachers. And what that does is it allows you to not only provide more specials, but it also allows you to break out your core grade level teams and possibly have them meet for common planning time and more collaborative time, which has been extremely beneficial. Stop me if there are questions on this. Something that was interesting, because we know that with ESSER running out, ESSER is the federal funding that we've received as we came out of the pandemic. It was interesting as we put our budget together, just to get an idea of what people were looking at in terms of increases that they're asking their towns for. This was something that went around both in the superintendent's listserv, but also in the business manager's listserv. These are just towns in the area or towns that DESE compares us to when they use their DART tool. So just as you look down, we're sort of in the middle of what we're requesting. Agawam's requesting, you see at the top there, 3.78%. Dedham, which is one of the towns that DESE compares us to, they're asking for 8%. Yeah, so there's some interesting fluctuation going across the Commonwealth. So our request is right in the middle of a lot of these numbers. I say this every year, but I think it's worth repeating that, you know, a school system's budget is the most strategic factor to impact every student's success and hopefully reaching his or her full potential while allowing the district to meet its SMART goals for all the students. This gives you an idea over the last few fiscal years. This comes from DESE's report per pupil expenditure. You can find it on their website, and they go up to fiscal year 23, sort of where per pupil spending is state average up at the top there, and then where the Lower Pioneer Valley Educational Collaborative schools are with their per pupil expenditure. You can see, similar to our request, we're sort of in the middle with Agawam leading the way there with their per pupil spending, and then Ludlow, Southwick, Tolland, Granville recently has come up over the last couple of years. And if you look at FY22, we also increased our spending from FY22. We had gone down 21 at around 18,000 to 17,000, and now we're back in the middle there with 19,000 per pupil. Interestingly enough, first time I've seen Long Meadow at the bottom of this list. Not that we're competitive. If you look at the dark districts, so these are the districts, if you go to DESE's website, that they feel are most comparable to East Long Meadow, and it's not just necessarily student population, it's test scores, it's socioeconomics, it's a number of factors. And so some towns fall out and others are added, but we've been pretty consistent with the towns like Sandwich, Danvers, East Bridgewater, I think is relatively new, and Belchertown, I think is new. But this is how we compare when you look at those communities. So we notched down a little bit with Sandwich, Triton, Danvers, and Norton above us in that comparison, and Dartmouth, Belchertown, and East Bridgewater below us. Looking over the past 10 years, back in 2014, we received a budget increase of 4.1%, and that was the highest over the last 10 years. And then we went through a series of roughly 2% years. And then when we got to, we talked about early on the earlier slide, we got to 21 and 22, we were looking in the 1 and change range. And that's where, if you look at the 10 years, anywhere we get down to 1% or 1% point something, we're generally in need of reducing positions to make up that kind of money. However, East Long Meadow has always been very supportive. And as we came out of COVID, came out of the pandemic, the last 2 years, we've been able to start to really build back and set a solid foundation with 3.9 and 3.9. And this year's request is right in that line at 3.98%. So what does that entail? First, to bring back all of the effective programming from this fiscal year into the next fiscal year. That would be staff, software programs that we're using for students, the different things that seem to be working for students. That was going to bring us to about a 3.78%. In terms of going from fiscal year 24 to fiscal year 25. As you all know, we've discussed really 3, maybe 4 positions here throughout the whole budget development process, and ultimately decided that the one position that is probably going to help really move Meadowbrook forward and therefore set a foundation for a number of students as they go through the grade levels is to add an adjustment counselor at Meadowbrook School. To school that's close to 600 students, and we have 2 counselors there, but the amount of challenge and demand that they're currently facing, we really could use more support. And then this would ultimately also support the social and emotional learning program that we have recently brought back at Meadowbrook. So you'd have 3 counselors there working very closely with the grade levels of teachers, and probably specifically working very closely with preschool and kindergarten, because we're seeing some interesting challenges that we have not seen before in those grade levels. When you add in the adjustment counselor, that takes it up to that 3.98%. That's 0.2. So overall, the request that was sent to the town was a 3.98%. The budget request supports, we feel, ELPS students and families for continued growth academically, socially, and emotionally, and would bring us to an overall budget of $35,995,126. When you break that down by cost centers, district-wide, which not only is central office, but it's student support services, it's contracted services, which could be anything from additional special education support, speech and language. It can also be legal. It's everything that we contract for. That, as you see, is around 7 million this year, 7,679,000. Meadowbrook's at 6 million, Maple Shade at 3 million, Mountain View around 3 million, Birchland at 6, high school at 8. That brings us to our current budget at 34,618,458. And then the proposed budget, you can see how that would increase and get us to the $35,995,126.
I just wanted to add, if you don't mind,
Please, yeah.
Gordon, you know, within here, you see a lot of changes and a lot of things happen behind the scenes. There's degree advancements for Unit A staff, retirements. I think this year we're at 9 right now. We just one other one just came in last week, I believe. So I don't know if that's the 9th or the 10th, but we're right around there.
Couple of those are Maple Shade.
Yes, exactly. And
You see that?
contractual increases. I want to remind you that paraprofessionals have a unusually not typical higher increase in their contract because they were far below where they should be. So I just wanted to remind folks, because that's about a 7.5% increase, somewhere around there. It's not just a 2.5 like it typically is. And
I'm going to add to that point. That's a good
Sure.
point, because if you remember, we negotiated with paraprofessionals last year and we really had to move them into a living wage, which they had not had previously. And you couldn't then just apply, the 2% or the 2.5% and even get close over the 3-year contract. So it was a significant jump, but a needed jump, given how valuable our paraprofessionals are to make things really function well for our students. And we were losing paraprofessionals, which in my tenure, that was the first time we started to lose paraprofessionals, just looking for districts that were paying more, is what they said when they talked to me.
And one other gentle reminder to everyone is that we do take all of this into consideration when we are building the budget. When there is a vacancy and we might have a teacher at whatever, at a 85,000, 90,000 at the top of the step, we put them in as a master step 8, which I believe is
In the 60s.
69,877, I think. So we're always, putting that in, knowing that some come in a little higher depending on the position and the school and some come in a little lower. So we always build that into our budget.
And then there's a slide that we show every year as well, because the operational budget that we received, the $35,995,126, does not cover everything that we provide in terms of services throughout the district. We have to rely on, as most districts do, grants like Title I, Title IIA, Title IV. There's a special education early childhood grant that helps out our preschool. And then some of the bigger grants are grants like special education IDEA, where you see, it's in the 800,000, almost 900,000 range over each year. That specifically takes care of and helps us quite a bit with out-of-district tuitions. We budget a certain amount. It's really three-pronged, am I right?
Yes, that's right.
You know, we budget a certain amount in the operational budget for out of district tuitions. We know that we have well, we're always very happy that we have IDEA that we can apply for. And then Circuit Breaker, which is a program the state has, which is more or less like a catch-up program, because you put in when you get over a certain threshold of spending on a given student, and then you hope to get 75% if they're funding at that level of what you spent over. I think the threshold's right around 48,000.
Yeah, it's about 48,000,
Yeah.
2.5 times the per pupil expenditure rate, I think is.
So anything, if we're spending on a given student over that 48,000 threshold, then we can put in for reimbursement through the Circuit Breaker system. Then that money comes in actually the next year. But then we utilize that money to offset out of district tuition and other special education supports that we may need.
Thank you. I was glad you added that because
It's not-
although it's we really count on that in the budgeting process, and also as a safe haven, because you don't know what's going to happen with special education. Things can change very, very quickly. There was one year, just as a reminder, we had to go to town council to ask for additional funds, which, you know, we would rather not do. We really try to. So it's nice for us to be able to get these funds in and try to roll over as much as we can into the next year so that this is this pocket of money that can withstand any changes that the district, you know, occurs the following year. And the way Circuit Breaker works, the last thing I'll say, I'm sorry.
No.
The last thing
Good stuff.
I just wanted to mention was Circuit Breaker, the way the law works is the revenue comes into a revolving account and then we have to expend what we need to run the programs, but we can legally roll over one full year's Circuit Breaker revenue, which most districts, most business managers are really trying to do because special ed is, you know, it's just unpredictable.
But in that next year, you have to spend.
And then the
that
next year you
exactly.
have to spend that rollover amount. So you roll it over into the next year if you can, but then you have to spend that amount that you rolled over in the following year. Does that make sense? Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Circuit Breaker and the management, so I have to give Mrs. Blair a big compliment. The management of Circuit Breaker, as well as Mr. Ferdad, even though he's not with us tonight, that helped us get through this year when coming out of the pandemic, DESE allowed our out-of-district organizations and schools to increase, was it 14%?
Yes, it was 14.
14%. So they had been
Rate
averaging
increases.
more like a 2% increase for a number of years, but they had approved last year about a 14% increase, which meant that all of those tuitions for students who are out in these placements were going up possibly to 14%. And in most cases they did. But that the management around our Circuit Breaker account over the last 2 years, all years really, but the last 2 years to navigate through that increase was pretty incredible. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
That's for anything under the special ed umbrella or just, not just out of district
It's
placements?
not just out of district placements.
That's our
Once-
biggest cost, so that's
Okay.
what we usually, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But
There's.
you can use it for other things as long as it's going towards special education. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, ELPS as always, and will continue to work with the town to be fiscally responsible while also supporting our students' continued progress and growth. Specifically, that means that we have submitted this to the town manager and that it became part of his budget that he submitted earlier this month. And we will be meeting with the Financial Oversight Committee possibly on May 9th to discuss our budget further with them. And then ultimately that goes to the town council and we'll be in that hearing as well. So if there are questions from the council themselves, we can answer those.
Can I just add one other thing too? I just wanted to mention that we did meet with Tom Christensen
Mhm.
about the budget and Rebecca Lisi was there as well as Kim Collins. And I personally appreciated a lot of the questions he had asked. He wanted to really understand the school department budget and I just really, we appreciated that. You know, I always joke that the budget, you know, the DOE codes, it's my life. I really enjoy them and I just appreciated him taking the time to work with us on that.
We probably might 2 or 3 times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you met, a couple
Yeah.
of times. I was just in that last meeting there.
But it was important,
Yep.
so that he understands how our budget works. We have a number of accounts. The DOE codes themselves can be quite confusing.
Cool, questions? Very good. Great, thank you. We're on our way. All right, we'll move along then. We now have the third quarter financial report.
Yes.
Ma'am, please.
Yes, you do. So, in your packet is the third quarter financial report. I always tell you I do this, a spreadsheet that is designed as a financial update for your FY 24 school budget. It includes your operating budget as well as your grants and your revolving accounts. If you go to page 5, that's where the spreadsheet is. Your operational salary budgets are on the top section, of the spreadsheet. I do want to mention that we have expended or encumbered 97% of the salary side of the budget. So that's perfect. That's right where we want to be. As you work your way down, you're going to see most of these are expended. Some of these still have line item balances because it could be like athletics. We don't encumber those funds. They're spent as needed. And but there are a few budget lines that I just want to make mention about that seem to have a surplus here that I do anticipate will probably end up using the surplus on the salary side to help on the expense side. So the first one is nurses and the medical staff. You'll see that there's $103,000 remaining there. Some of those is because it is not encumbered and it is paid out as they work. Some of it is because we couldn't get the people in the position, so we had to go on the expense side of the budget and use contracted services. So I just want to make mention about that. The other one is the paraprofessional line item in the middle of the top there. We have about $87,000 remaining there now. We do encumber paraprofessionals. We have, I think currently or last week when I did the report, 4 vacancies, and there were 3 leave of absences during the year. These types of things make a difference. So, it adds up kind of quickly here. So the 87,000 makes sense. The next line item that I just want to make mention of is the teacher line item. That has $163,000. Currently, there are 2 vacancies, and we've had throughout the year 10 leave of absences. So, could be short term, some could be longer. Again, all of that adds up pretty quickly, and that's why you see 163,000 there.
If I may just add, the vacancies, especially at the teaching point, those weren't vacancies that have been vacant since August when we started the school year. They were vacant when individuals chose to either change careers or go to another district. And so those have been posted and we're trying to fill those vacancies.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So overall, on the salary side, you'll see that there's a remaining balance. Again, this is as of March 31st, $795,516 there. Is there any questions on that salary section?
How's the substitute line item coming?
So I'm glad you said that, Greg, because actually wanted to mention that. So in the substitute line item, which is $410,000, we did put and allocate $100,000 for the permanent building subs in there. So there is only 28,000 remaining. So it is something I'm looking at. And again, subs change from year to year and our needs. And when you see like how many vacancies you have and things that need to, fill, you can understand how it's using it up much quicker this year. So it is something, Greg, I am looking at for this last quarter.
In the FY 24, are we using the 410 number again or the 25? Or you're
I will have to-
saying we may need more
I believe I used that number. I might have increased it a little knowing that, I'll have to double check that for you.
So long term, should the long terms or the permanent subs be funded through that line item, the substitute line item? it still makes sense to leave it there even though.
Well, because
they're-
they're still coded, that DOE code that
Okay.
I talk about, they're
And they're
still
both-
coded as, so- and it's all in my reporting. If you'd like me to pull that out, I can certainly.
No, I'm
do
not saying
that.
we have to, but I'm just, if it's a reoccurring cost, it's different than a traditional sub, but if it's still coded as a sub.
substitute for
And there's
DESI.
still employees that will.
Right.
Right, okay, so I would leave
And
it.
within the subs, DESI does, I think it started maybe 5 years ago, when there is a long-term sub, I have a different but similar, it's only off 1 digit, for a long-term sub in the DOE code. So that is inclusive in the subs. When I do the reporting to the state, they do want to know short-term versus a long-term.
And the permanent subs are classified as long-term in that situation. You're saying,
Only if they take the role.
Exactly. So no, they, because they're not filling in for someone who is
Oh.
out for, they
only if
may,
you're a long.
Yes,
specific
correct.
Sub.
that's correct. That's what.
And
Denver-
sometimes that
So then
does
we
happen.
classify them as not long-term
That's
subs.
correct.
Okay.
Unless they shift into one of those vacancies that the principal is having a difficult time filling, so that they have to shift the person over.
But then they try to fill the long-term.
Then they
subs,
try to.
Then they just do daily.
Daily subs.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go down to the bottom of the section of the spreadsheet, which is your expense side of the budget. And this also is expended and encumbered at 97%, which was interesting. But the only place that I really want to bring your attention to is the contracted services line. You can see that's a negative $148,000. So as I said to you, we talk about, we have a lot of needs in the district, and some of those could be to fulfill IEP needs, and different contracted services. And if we don't have staff and we don't want to hire new staff, we've got to fulfill the needs somehow. So we've talked about this throughout the year. Contracted services is up as the salaries might be down. So as I mentioned, soon, in a few weeks, I'll probably be requesting end of year transfers and move some of these funds from the salary side over to the expense side to cover this.
Are the nurses, going back, are they completely encumbered so that 103 is left?
Well, the nurses are, but we might have other staff that are not, because remember, we have some at-will
Right.
employees.
I know, but I'm asking because specifically you mentioned contracted services
Mhm.
for the nurses, so part of that deficit is that, so there's a direct correlation of that 103 and that 148. Are we
There is.
gonna look to move the 103 all the way to the contracted
Yes.
services?
I don't know if it'll be the entire 103, but it'll be the bulk of that is what I anticipate.
Do you
And I'll-
anticipate more contracted services to come in the
Possibly,
next 2 months though?
possibly, yes.
And then final question on that, the operating, the FY 25 number, did you increase that from the 2896?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to follow your 2896.
The contracted
Oh, for
services,
Contracted
yeah.
services. Because there's more things that have to be taken into consideration behind the scenes, I'm not positive if
Okay.
it did.
Mhm.
Things such as transportation is in there, and if I behind this, so that it's more than just one item. So I would want to double check that for you so that I give you accurate information. Again, there's too many moving parts behind the scenes.
Yeah. If we could look at that over time too, the contracted services, it just anecdotally sounds like we're using more.
Well,
We are.
and I remember it was probably during the time when we did have to go to town council, I think we did a big chart on contracted
It's
services.
actually last year.
Was it just last year?
If we're gonna keep FTEs down, then we have to contract out more of these services rather than have an employee do them. And so that's where the challenge becomes. One of the things we did with the new paraprofessional contract is we introduced an opportunity for paras to get trained and become registered behavior technicians. And so we have, I think, 3 in the district who are employees, and we're utilizing them that way. But in many of our classrooms where we need a registered behavior technician, if we don't have one of the 3, then we have to contract out for it in order to meet the IEP. And what we pay in terms of a stipend in addition to the para salary is not the same as what a group outside would charge us.
Who decides to go out for contracted services? The team?
If we can't meet the IEP,
Yeah,
then what they do is they'll request student support services to look at that
and then Michael approves everything or?
Well, it
combination,
starts there and
yeah.
then it comes.
and then it comes to us.
Okay, it goes all the way up.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
process behind that.
okay.
We work with a couple different organizations that we have a long relationship with, and so, which is really helpful because every district is looking to get at these services if they're not hiring employees to do them. And thankfully, we're usually taken care of quite rapidly, which is good.
And so at the bottom of that spreadsheet, just as a reminder here, our budget, our current operating budget is 34,618,457. We have expended 22,452,322. We have still encumbered 11,187,500, leaving the remaining total balance, available balance as of March 31st of 978,636. Okay.
Yeah, are you, anything to worry about between now and the next 2 months on that 978? I know we got the 148, but I know
No.
that nets out,
No, I'm not.
even if we get a little more contracted services.
Yeah, I'm,
Okay,
I'm not overly concerned. So we go to page 6, which is your grants are at the top of the page and you're revolving at the bottom. We'll start with the grants. ESSER, which of course always makes it a little easier for me not to be so nervous when we have a little funding source, right? That could be helpful, but that grant is going away on September 30th.
how are we doing with the playscape?
So the Playscape, I'm glad you said that. So we hired an engineering service. We posted that on Combis. The company GZA, I believe is the firm, and they will do the site plan. The surveyors were out there last week and they're coming again this week to do some finish work. Renee and I have a kickoff meeting with the engineers on Thursday, I believe. And Renee has been working behind the scenes with her staff and creating a plan of what we want to purchase, because as a reminder, it's the turnaround time for us to try to do this, to get the engineers to do the site plan, to then get a company to help us put this whole bid package together for installation and equipment. It would take us too long because it takes about 3 to 4 months at least to get the equipment. So we decided through much discussion that the best way to do this was for us to get the engineering service. They do their surveying, do the site plan, start working behind the scenes. We come up with the plan. We're going to order the equipment directly from a state contract. And then during this time, the plans for that will be given to the engineer so they can help incorporate that into the plan that will then go out to bid for a company to do the installation. So that will come out later this spring. So hopefully the equipment comes in, I'm hoping at the end of August, so then we can have September, October to do the installation, and that's our plan. And although the grant does end September 30th, the monies need to be obligated, meaning the purchase orders and all of that equipment needs to be in place. I can't be doing that on October 1st, placing an order. As long as it's in place, and I have this in writing from Desi as well, so I made sure we're doing everything the right way and understood everything the right way. We have until December 30th to actually pay the invoice. So if the installation were to go over, and it will, go beyond September 30th. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm anticipating the end of October. So we're doing just fine. And although you see a $500,000 available balance remaining there, the amount for the engineering services is already encumbered in that $178,000 that you see there. I think we had talked about the budget for the playground. The anticipated budget was $400,000 to $450,000. So I feel very comfortable with where we're at here. Right? Yeah. So all is good. Any other questions on the playground?
And once a plan is developed, can we just have a?
Absolutely. And that hopefully will be in the next week or so. At our next meeting, I can hopefully hand that out and share it with everyone. I'd be very excited to do that. The next grant you have, your Title I grant. You'll see that there's an increase of $165. And in fact, you're going to see there's 4 of our grants had slight increases. And just to let you know that those are final allocations from DESI, as they are required to redistribute any funds that were forfeited or unclaimed. So they have to then put it back out and distribute it accordingly. So I think they call these like tailings. And so the Title I increase of 165 now brings the grant to 303,661. You'll see that there's only 38,000 remaining there right now. Title IIA, there was an increase of $720. That brought that grant to 50,318. There's 29,000 remaining there, and I'm working with Heather oversees that grant, and that's professional development mostly, Title IIA grant. Your Title V grant, that's 23,000. There's no increase there. There's still 12,575 left there. Special Ed IDEA grant, that's the big one that Mr. Smith was talking about, 842,082. Oh, I'm sorry, that was FY23 grant. And the reason we had that is we had funds that had to be rolled over to help, trying to think of the proper term for it, private schools or homeschooled students that need assistance. So we had to roll that over because the funds can only be expended on that. So we're closing down on, we only have $5,000 remaining to finish expending from the FY23 grant. So the FY24 grant, there was an increase of $4,055, and that brought the grant to $890,165, and there's just 36,000 remaining there. Special Ed Early Childhood Grant, as Mr. Smith alluded to, that helps to pay a portion of the early childhood coordinator salary.
I think a teacher too, right?
No, it's only 19,000, so it just goes towards, it's a portion
Gotcha.
of the teacher's salary. Then we have the state grant, which is your DPH Comprehensive School Health Grant. That's $80,000. The Administrator of Health Services oversees that, and that has 41,000 remaining there. I'm working with her on making sure that those are expended by year end. And then there's the FY24 METCO grant, and that had an increase of $7,890. That brought that grant to $352,545. And we have 40,000 remaining. Last grant is your private grant. I think that was Carolyn McBride from Maple Shade, Unify Against Bullying grant. And that was a $3,000 grant that she received, and there's still 727. So I'll be reaching out to her to make sure that we expend those funds as well. Are there any questions on any of the grants? Okay, your bottom section are your revolving accounts. We have the athletic revolving account. It only has 3,200 remaining in there. That does not have any of the fees that go in, at the last semester there, the last, quarter for, thank you. Better word, last season. Thank you, Mr. Smith. The athletic stadium rental, I don't believe we've had any rental. You'll see there's no receipts there. So that has a balance of $6,800 there. The school rental accounts, 177,000. That's a cumulative across the district. That's also where Park and Rec goes in. So as custodial staff work, any Park and Rec events, we pay the custodians up front, and then it's kind of backfilled from the Park and Rec through an agreement, and that revenue is just to cover custodial expenses, but just to let you know, that's behind the scenes. Student mobile technology insurance account, we have 27,000 remaining there. You'll see that there was 44,860 expended this year. We did IT purchased through this account approximately 30 Chromebooks. They also purchased screens and chargers and keyboards. I think I wrote that in the write-up to you all so that you would know. So we're feeling pretty confident with this account and where it's at.
1 or 2 screens a day.
Yeah, mostly at Birchland
Yeah.
Park, that age group.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So this insurance programs or self-insurance program has been quite good.
It has.
It's
And
kept the cost down for families as well as.
mhm. And of course, kudos to IT. They're very good to us, and I'm sure we keep them very, very busy. The staff technology repair account, that's for the teachers and the paras, $530. Again, that's a self-funded. Unit A gives us a check. So as these monies become depleted, they'll write us a check. I think it's typically 2,500 or 3,500 that they give back to this account here to ensure that the staff are all set. The school gift accounts, you'll see there's 64,000 remaining there. I just want to remind you that E-Leaf is considered a gift, and that's part of that. And I just want to remind you that E-Leaf this year was $51,000. So I worked behind the scenes with the staff to expend those funds on the different projects that E-Leaf has approved. And again, thank you, E-Leaf. We're always very grateful. The preschool tuition revolving account, there's $292,000 there. We will be using those funds to cover parent. That was part of our plan because of losing the ESSER account and a reduction in Title I next year that we have paraprofessionals on each. And as you recall, we're shifting those under the preschool tuition revolving account. So
And the coordinator, right? Part of the coordinator?
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't go back and pull the file and list them all. Paras were just in my mind, but I think you're correct. The circuit breaker, we talked about that. So that comes in quarterly. That's $428,000 quarterly. There's a current balance of $980 there. I'm sorry, $980,000. Thank you, Gordon.
You're
Yes, that's a big difference. Transportation revolving account, there's $52,000. You'll see that we had the receipts were $57,000. We expended $153,000. That helps us pay a portion of the transportation, the busing costs. And most of the revenue comes in at the end of each fiscal year. Because as you can imagine, we put out the bus transportation. Oh, and I have something very exciting to tell everyone. We're going to do the bus registrations online this year. We are working right now, central office with IT department. And it's actually posted on the website. In the next week or two, we'll be sending out communication to let everybody know. So this is a much more streamlined process. But the revenue for the following year comes in the month of May and June. So that's why you see the revenue is down there, but the expense is out. Does that make sense to everyone? The school lunch account. So this is a self-funded program. And finally, after a couple of years after going through the pandemic, when it was not such a successful program for anyone across the state, it now has a $700,000 balance, which is really great. As I mentioned to you, she has a whole list of different things that need to be done throughout the district. Right now, she's working on a refrigerator at Meadowbrook. That project has already gone out to bid and will be done this summer when school is out. Also, there's a steam table at Maple Shade. Together, those two projects are a little over $100,000 for just, I mean, the refrigerator's like $75,000 and like $35,000 for the steam table. And so, they're big ticket items and you got to plug away at it a little, but Lori Paul does a great job and her staff. And I have a listing if anyone ever wants additional information, and Lori's always willing to come here to have those conversations as well, that she does have a plan in place. And also the way the state works is because this is federal and state revenue, they always want to know what's happening and what kind of supply. So Lori has to have like a pre-approval process through the state level as well. So rest assured, that's being well taken care of. The last one is your school choice account. We receive those monies monthly. Right now it's $30,775 a month. That comes into the town with the Chapter 70 funds, and so the Chapter 70 goes to the town account, and then the school choice revenue comes to the school department's revolving account to be expended by the school. And right now that's $710,000. We've talked about the plan going forward with those, the one-time purchases that we can do, the summer school, the summer academies.
About the other schools that didn't put forward the one-time purchases?
I think most did.
All five did now?
Most did, and we talk about my next topic. I'm going to suggest school choice for that also. So, yeah.
Also, though, remember, the summer academies were being run through ESSER.
Yep.
And now the school choice money can pick that up. So it's no additional cost to the operational budget, but it has been a pretty significant benefit, we feel, to the families. Yep. So,
Yeah. So right now the principals and Heather, curriculum director, Michael Fredette's student services, all working to create and get organized those summer academies across the district. So
Are those numbers similar, year to year? I mean, it's only been.
In terms of students,
Yeah.
interest picked up after the first year. I don't think you've had to cap it yet, but I could be wrong in that. At some grade levels, we may have had to cap it, but I can get that information for you for the next meeting if you like. Yeah.
There's one more quarter of circuit breaker to come.
actually, I think there might be two. You're talking circuit breaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's only 856,000 there. So remember, when I do
Yeah,
my
we're gonna
reports,
get-
it's got to come to the town and then,
Okay.
you know what I mean? It's always behind a little. So there's two more quarters to come.
It's 17, I guess it'd be 1.7. That's our total circuit
And
breaker,
that's our total circuit breaker, yes.
but we won't carry forward a full year.
I'm anticipating right now, if I had to give you a number and I'm just, doing a best guesstimate, I would guess at more like a 1.5 million, but I don't know that for sure. As the year comes to closure, a lot of things change behind the scenes. So I'll keep you posted on that. And I just want to remind everyone, it's imperative to remember that the balances provided are a snapshot in time and changing constantly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, for Pam? If not, I take a motion to accept the quarterly. Do you have to go?
I just gotta change the camera, but we're good.
How come we don't get priority? Not to put you on the spot, Jamie, I'm kidding. I didn't really expect an answer though, but thank you though. Oh, I gotta go to Don for that answer, is that what you're telling me?
I'm recording this and then I'll switch over this.
Okay.
Still recording, so you-
Okay, thank you, Jamie.
I move to approve the FY 24 third quarter financial report as presented.
Motion made by Kate. A second by Amy. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay, that carries 3-0.
Great, thank you.
Gotta get done before Jamie gets back.
Yeah. You want me to? All right, next, you want me to go right to it? All right, 5.2.2. So when Mr. Page was here, presenting the program of studies, was the discussion about the piano course. I wasn't actually at that meeting, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, introduce one of the new
So you wanna
courses.
buy-
Courses for next year. Say that again.
Keyboards? We're about to-
Yeah, so looking to find the cheapest, out there quality, of
Yep.
course. But in your package, you'll see that there's this vendor was very, very helpful to us and they took purchase orders and sent me this quote. So this was perfect. So $12,522.56 will 16 students plus one for the teacher, so 17 keyboards plus the accessories to go along with it. So I would recommend to the committee, I would recommend school choice. It makes perfect sense. It's one of those one times. That's why we bring in the school choice revenue. And so
Take a motion to purchase using school choice, please.
I motion to approve the purchase of the keyboards for the new piano course. For a one-time purchase. Sorry,
52256.
52256.
Using
School choice.
Motion made by Kate, second by Amy. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That carries 3-0.
excellent. Thank you. I'll let Mr. Page know. We'll get this.
Ordered this week, that's very exciting.
They want to go to Sonny's place?
Yes.
They got all the stuff
There's
they need?
a fifth grade field trip take place May 21st. So somewhat of a celebration, end of the year celebration to Sonny's Place. Roughly, 85 students and 35 adults. So they'll be well supervised.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's more adults than
Wow.
most field trips, but okay.
Hey, it's Sonny's place.
There you go.
Everyone's volunteering.
That's right. I
for
might
that
just go
one.
too. I take a motion for that, please.
Make a motion to approve the fifth grade field trip to Sunny's Place in Somers, Connecticut, May 21st, 2024.
Motion made by Amy.
Second.
By Kate. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That motion carries 3-0.
Love to see this be district-wide.
Sonny's place?
I'd love to see it be, if it's a fifth grade
Like
field
a
trip.
fifth grade
kinda
celebration.
celebrate the culmination of elementary school. I'd
Oh.
love to see this
Yeah.
at Maple Shade as well.
Oh, yeah.
We'll check
At
on
some
that.
point.
They definitely can do it.
That'd be nice, huh?
we can talk about the AI committee at another meeting, probably.
You sure?
Yeah,
Okay.
because we gotta get input from everyone, and we have folks trying to get to another meeting, so.
Okay.
That's
Mr.
right.
Quimby certainly will take part in that, and
Okay.
our thoughts were, in addition to school committee, drafting at least one staff member from each building.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be a school committee unless somebody wants to do it. I had just thought with AI coming, it's here, hello.
It's already here. Yeah.
That we should have a good grasp on it. In order to have a grasp on it, we should have a group actually looking at it and seeing what the impacts will be for education and how AI potentially will replace the educator if we let it. So I just wanted to start something, so if we could think about that, and then maybe the next meeting, we could come back with some ideas on what that looks
And it
like.
may be helpful to have a school committee member on
Yeah.
it, because I think coming out of this, you're probably gonna be developing policy. So at least having one school committee member on that committee.
Yeah,
That's huge, yeah.
it's here, you know?
Yeah.
It's already.
Yeah.
Yeah, and seeing how
We
it
don't
would
wanna
be
be
a
caught off
tool,
guard.
but they could still use it, but how to use it the right way.
Yeah,
And still learn
exactly.
things for yourself, and yes.
All of the
Yep.
above.
Yep.
Okay,
All
with
right.
that, if there's no other business, I would take a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Amy, second by Kate. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Those opposed, nay. That carries 3-0.
Sorry.
Thank you, we are
I was
adjourned.
hissing at you.